Hello, and welcome to the next in our series of live internet streaming, internet marketing webinars. This one is called The Internet Knows You're Not a Dog. As ever, these are presented in association with How To Corp, and that's with assistance from our latest software, Traffic Paymaster, and of course in association with our numerous ebooks, the latest and most successful of which is How to Bounce Back from Recession. As ever, I am your host, and I am Michael Green. Now, in our last webinar, we discussed about copying's role in internet marketing, and just in a kind of in terms of the economy more generally as well, in terms of how capitalism works, and how if you were to really get good at copying, both in terms of copying content, but also copying ideas, that then you're well on your way to developing the kind of business that would resemble something like the image on your right. And I promised that in my next webinar I was going to pull all these strands together and to really show you how to finish that company that you've been dreaming of. But instead, I'm going to pause myself there for a moment, and actually I'm going to respond to a number of questions that people have been emailing and commenting to me, which actually goes back to the first webinar in this series, which was called How to Construct a Marketable Identity Online, and was about kind of how to like build up a face for your company that was that would attract customers and kind of make them relate to you and your business, and to kind of obscure some of the kind of less palatable facts about owning and running a company, to do with exploiting your customers, and essentially about profit in the end. And so I had a number of emails and comments that were actually from people who'd read The Guardian, and I mean, I wouldn't advise this. I don't know what business internet marketers have reading The Guardian, but I'll respond to the comments nonetheless. So the Guardian stories that they were referring to, and these were subsequently picked up by kind of other newspapers, and are quite well known now, more generally, outside of the kind of far left readership of The Guardian. We're all about how the NSA and GCHQ had been spying on internet users, and so the questions were about that if these two government agencies are spying on me all the time on the internet, then is it worth me having a kind of marketable false identity online, when presumably these agencies would know that this wasn't the case? Actually, before I go on, I'm going to stop there and point out something else that I'm doing in this talk, which, as well as giving you useful content today, I'm also illustrating a clever way of marketing and of fronting a company, which is to respond to your users' questions, and so by doing this, I'm enacting and practicing a clever way of marketing, which is to make your customers feel like they are important as individuals, and in this way you can sometimes obscure. It's another way of obscuring the ways in which you may actually be treating them as someone that you're trying to kind of squeeze money out of, as is what we're doing in kind of capitalist exchange in general. So back to these agencies. What I'm going to do first is give you just a brief outline, in case you're not aware of who these people are. So the National Security Agency is the NSA, I'll call them from now on here, is a American government agency which is to do with spying on hostile populations. I mean, they kind of were born out of a cryptology unit in the First World War, and were quite small even into the Second World War, but kind of very much grew in the Cold War period. The kind of the specific spying things that we're going to be talking about today don't originate from this time even. They were kind of more post 9/11, and actually started under a different agency, which was called the Information Awareness Office. This was started in 2002 and only lasted until 2004. If I make the image bigger there, I can. That was their logo, and I think when you look at the logo, it's maybe not surprising that they stopped running and were merged back into the NSA, because. I mean, I don't know how someone thought that was an okay image for a government agency, an eye above a pyramid looking at the world. But so the NSA took on much of what the Information Awareness Office was set up to do, which was essentially to monitor all online activity where possible. Now, the NSA's headquarters is this building, which is in Fort Meade in Maryland in America. But really the reach of the NSA extends far past the building, of course. I mean, it could be likened to an octopus with its kind of tentacles all around the world. And so this happens in different ways. So, I mean, it has many other facilities, first of all. These are some great photos by an artist called Trevor Pagellin, who photos these facilities at very long distances, as you're not allowed to get closer to them. But then it extends out into the world in other ways too. So I mean we're all interconnected, and of course its spying is as much on other populations, on other people, as on Americans themselves. So for example, this is a map of the NSA data collection in terms of its concentration. And of course they have facilities all over the world too. So this is an image of the biggest one that's in England, which is the RAF Menwith Hill, and that's in Harrogate in Yorkshire, near Harrogate, of course. It's not in the city. And then, of course, it collaborates with other agencies. The primary one, of course, is GCHQ, which is our own similar setup, really. This stands for the Government Communication Headquarters, and its headquarters, of which the title refers to, is this building here, which is in Cheltenham. Now, for years, internet marketers like you and I we were already kind of aware of this spying going on. There was lots of talk over the internet about these things taking place, and there were odd clues about kind of where buildings were stationed that might have access to internet cables, and the odd employee that may have left and said that these things were the case, but without any kind of irrefutable proof, a kind of a smoking gun, if you will. These things were kind of put down as conspiracy theories, and the people who said them were known as conspiracy theorists, and kind of popularly imagined, like the image next to me here with a man with a tinfoil on his head. And these were the same people that thought things like that the moon landings had been faked because light was in the wrong place, or there was no stars, this kind of thing, you know. And also that maybe Kennedy had been murdered by the CIA or FBI, or maybe even the NSA, come to think of it. And these questions are still ongoing, you know, and these are open discussions whether or not they're true. But unlike these ones, I think this has changed in respect of the NSA and their spy systems. And this is mostly a result of this man here. His name is Edward Snowden. And what he did was he not only spoke to journalists about how all this was working, but and thereby allowing them to report on it, but in being able to report on it, it was because that they had the hard evidence. So he'd actually leaked documents to The Guardian and subsequently to other newspapers as well. And these documents then showed us how our lives in general, but most specifically over the internet, were heavily surveilled, and that the NSA would know who you were, even if you're using a fake name on Twitter or whatever. I mean, I think the most useful things to look at in terms of what Snowden leaked were some of the PowerPoint presentations that the NSA had produced. So this is a slide from a PowerPoint about PRISM, for example. And this was taken from the Guardian website, because they released all the source material too, although they'd redacted some of it. Now, as you can see, there are a number of kind of security specifications in the top and bottom there. The first one says top secret, which is pretty self-explanatory. That means that the top secret is the second highest secrecy setting, I guess we'll call it for now, that the NSA has, and that extends to about 1.3 million people in America. The next one is SI, which just signifies significant intelligence, which obviously it is. The one after that is ORCON. That means, it officially means originator controls dissemination, and essentially is just that whoever has made it is expected to decide who sees it and to deliver that to them. And the last one, maybe the most interesting for this, is no foreign, which means no foreign nationals. So this was supposed to only be seen by Americans. And so if I show you some more of the slides that were in it, this is the first one, and what this slide is explaining is to do with the physicality of the internet, I guess. That's explaining how many of the cables that connect us to each other run through America, and I guess again we can think of this octopus that is traveling around the world all at once. Now this kind of the physicality of the internet is something that kind of artists have been talking about for a little while now. So people like Nina Canal, or kind of very much more recently John Gerard with his videos of Google's data facilities. But what these artists are telling us is that we imagine the internet to be kind of immaterial. But what was key for the NSA was that it isn't immaterial, is that all this data is stored in a physical place and travels physically. And that much of this travel went through America. So I might be kind of broadcasting this here from in Hatfield, and you may be in London, for example. But it's quite possible that the data has traveled to America and back before you see it. Now this traveling through American kind of in and out of their borders meant that they were able to pick up that data as it traveled through and back. And this was called the Upstream program. And Upstream worked by tapping these internet cables that run throughout the world, but through American soil, and we pick up this data. The other one, actually, before I go on, I should just flag that although these webinars are produced in association with an Upstream, I just need to clarify that is a different Upstream to the one I'm talking about here that the NSA use. Now, the other program was called PRISM, and this was actually what these slides are about today. And PRISM worked by collaborating with the major internet companies. So, I think we see more and more the internet is there's a series of big private companies that are almost kind of monopolistic in each of their fields. So you've got Google in terms of search and YouTube now. I guess they're one and the same company. And then you have Microsoft as a producer, and Facebook and Yahoo and How To Corp. That are all these kind of these giant companies of the internet that as they merge and merge, this will become more and more of a problem, I think, and that does seem to be the trend for these internet companies at the minute. Now, the NSA workers were encouraged to use both Prism and Upstream because they did different things. So, whereas Upstream was useful for kind of for picking up things in real time, and for doing it kind of one step more secretly, in that they didn't have to work with Google or the rest to let them know that they were doing this. What Prism allowed was for them to go through caches of these companies' data, you know. So even if they missed the email on the first time round, while on the Upstream side, that they would still have access to it through backdoors that the major internet companies built into their systems. Now, there are a couple of things that we can take from these slides. The first one that might be useful for us today to look at is the lack of graphic design in these slides. So, I mean, I've said it many times before that that your website doesn't need to be a work of art. We're not kind of being aesthetic about things. That what our business is built on is numbers, is visitors, is new content. It's not about looking good. It's not about feeling good or being interesting in any way. And I think these slides display a similar ethos in terms of being purely about content rather than about worrying about looking nice or about kind of lifting things in any way, you know. But and then I guess the other, maybe more important lesson that we should take from this today is just about what was and presumably is possible in terms of surveillance over the internet, and just how much of what we type and look at is captured and stored, and at least is possible to be captured and stored. I'm sure you yourself have nothing to hide, and so someone like me would say it doesn't matter at all, of course. But anyway, I'm sure you'll want to stop me there and say that, Michael, this is all for naught. Then what's the point of me designing a persona that is so marketable and so trusted by all, only for the NSA and GCHQ to know that it's all a lie? Well, I would say that yes, in some ways you may be right about that. I mean, this was an image that was popular early on when the internet was starting out, which said, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. And this was about how no one could kind of verify your identity online. Now, I guess this it's not true anymore in a sense, this image, in that GCHQ and the NSA do know that you're not a dog. They also very likely know exactly who you are, you know, in terms of your state name and your bodily address and all this stuff, even if you have used a fake name. But there is some good news, and that's that the NSA and GCHQ aren't the people you're trying to trick with your marketable identity. They're not your target audience. Your target audience are the public, and maybe kind of wider than that are your customers, are the people that you're going to be making money off of, because the NSA and GCHQ aren't going to give you any money. And the public don't have programs like Upstream and Prism. They're not going to see the hidden sides of your online identity. Now, I would clarify there that you still need to be careful, and that there are ways you could still be tripped up. So I've been tripped up a couple of times with my Michael Green persona, for example. Here was one way in which my identity was revealed. So to register the different web addresses, even though I could do so under Michael Green, I did have to put my real address. And once someone saw that address, they could go to the land registry websites, and there for £12 or so you can pay for a report on any property in the UK, and it will tell you who last bought it for how much and using what bank, and that's all entirely legal. You're allowed to know these things, and then from there they could go to an electoral register using that address, and then they could check the electoral register for the last year and see who was living there up to this point. And so through that, someone could find out what my real name was. But so if you're careful about things like this, then otherwise you just have to be quite rigorous about what you build up about yourself, and maybe to build a kind of narrative into your online identity. And so, I mean, I think a film like Catfish kind of illustrates the way to go about doing something like this. So, and so that is doing things like making a Facebook account for yourself, and also making a Twitter, and the more social media sites that you can sign up for and develop, the more realistic your online identity looks to someone who can't see how things are working behind the scenes. And then there are ways to make this look even better. So maybe on Twitter you might want to buy some more followers, and that can be done in a couple of ways. You could either pay a company to make a load of robots follow you, or you can pay a company that will follow lots of real people, and if they follow back, then good, you've got an extra follower, and if they don't follow back, then you'll unfollow them and no harm was done. If you're famous enough to have a Wikipedia article, as I am, then it's worthwhile keeping an eye on that. Though I would say be careful about where you edit it from, because your IP address will be another giveaway about your true offline identity. I say true, but you know what I mean. The identity that kind of culture would say was yours. And so if you're careful about all these things, then the internet can soon become something like this, kind of in the tradition of the Venetian masked ball, in which all of us are interacting with each other, but we're all kind of interacting behind kind of identities and personas that we've selected for ourselves. Or maybe that this can be even more automated, so that in the spirit of the robot Twitter followers, that maybe eventually we just have robots interacting with each other, and that we're free to get on with our internet marketing lives, to develop that identity that we want to develop. The kind of the marketable identity that, if done right, will eventually have people literally fighting each other to give you their money. Now, in my next webinar, I'm going to do what I said before, and I'm gonna pull all this back together. And now that I hope you've learnt how best to develop this identity in such a way that it won't be discovered, that there won't be any real holes in what you're doing, and to combine that with the copying and with some other tips that I'm going to give you next time. And soon you'll be well on your way to the kind of the new working conditions that I'm sure you deserve. In the meantime, don't forget to keep checking our website, howtocorp.org. And of course, to follow me on Twitter if you don't already. That's mgreenhowtocorp. And to connect with me on Facebook as well. That's facebook.com michaelgreenhowtocorp. I hope this has been useful for you. It's been brilliant for me. I, once again, have been Michael Green. Thank you.